Before Frank Mccourt's Pulitzer Prize-winning memoir, Angela's Ashes, before Malachy Mccourt's best-selling memoir, Amongst Swimming, there was a play called A Couple of Blaguards. The brothers wrote the play together more than 2 decades ago. It tells the story of their early lives and served as the inspiration for their memoirs. The play is now in production off Broadway. Here is a scene.
Limerick is beautiful, as everybody knows, and by that city of my heart the proud old Shannon flows. It sweeps down by the brave old town, so pure in depth and tone, as when Sarsfield swept the Saxons from the walls of Garryowen. Frank, Malachy, and your noble selves. I'm from Limerick, so am I. Limerick is the oldest city in Ireland, the second oldest in the British Isles. It sits where the River Shannon swings to the right and emigrates to America for itself.
Limerick is a very ancient city with castles, walls and crumbling ruins. And it's such a historic city that the favourite word of the Limerick man is was.
And the women of Limerick are the women. Is there anyone in the civilised world who hasn't heard of their beauty, their piety, and the ferocity of their chastity? The favourite word of the Limerick woman is no.
Joining me now, Frank Mccourt, currently at work on the sequel to Angela's Ashes, and his brother Malachy Mccourt, who's working on a sequel to his book, Amongst Swimming. I am pleased to have both of them here. Now, here it is, 19 years ago. What's the inspiration for this? I mean, where did this idea come from? And
for the Couple of Blaguards? It came from, well, first of all, Frank and myself we always had the habit of talking anyway.
Yes.
Having had a father who was very loquacious and growing up in a neighbourhood where there was nothing else to do but talk. And so we had wonderful, vicious and malicious gossip and great talk and heroic deeds about very insignificant events. And so Frank was teaching in New York here at the Stuyvesant High School and other places, and I was in the saloon business and doing radio and so on. Oh, it was anyway. Frank said one day, "We should put this on the stage." What? Said I. He said, "These stories that we talk about in our childhood." And I said, "What are you talking about, Frank? Who'd be interested?" Well, he said, "My students are, and the people you talk to are." And so I said,
"Start there."
There we go. And there it was.
Well, we already had audiences in that sense because Malachy had been in the bar business up over on the east side. And he had the first singles bar in America on 63rd Street and 3rd Avenue.
What was it called?
Malachy's.
Oh, Malachy.
What else would it be called?
Of course, it certainly was.
I was very impressed in retiring.
He was the Trump of the bar business.
Yeah, he was.
So he had his storytelling nights, and I had my, and of course I was teaching 5 classes a day in the high schools, at various high schools. And because the minute I opened my mouth, the kids would say, "Oh yeah, you Scotch or something?" So they were curious about my, I suppose, to them, exotic accent.
Yeah.
And they'd ask me about things, and I was very reluctant to tell them anything. I was always warned by other teachers, "Don't tell them a thing.
Yeah.
You are the teacher. Don't tell them about your private life, your past, because they use it." But I found it wasn't that way at all. Talking about myself was my bridge. It eased me into teaching because it was very hard.
It was said, Frank, about you that you did not teach English. You taught Frank Mccourt.
Oh no! Oh no! No, you can't do that. Because you have to deal with the material.
But coming from inside you, though, there was the language.
Oh, yeah, there was the language, but you can't talk about yourself 5 times in 5 classes a day. You have to deal with. Yeah, you could. Yeah, but I had.
That's what they do at a bar.
You could, but not when you're teaching. So that was the genesis of this show.
How close are you two?
We're
I mean, great friends.
Geographically, we moved closer because I really...
No, you don't know.
But we have.
I mean, are you really close? I mean, this is the kind of thing
Well, we went through rough times together when we were kids, and then when we came to the States, we went different ways.
Yeah.
But we were always in touch. Malachy was an uptown type, and I was a downtown type. He was night, and I was day. But we were always in touch. And then we'd have family gatherings, and at the same time, we always talked about each other behind each other's back.
Of course you did.
The gossip, the
And
backstabbing.
made sure that it got to the other one. We have this thing in the family of we have Mike is in San Francisco and Alfie is here in New York, and they're both wonderful storytellers in their own right. And but we'd always, whenever we get together, the brothers, one brother with another, was in Irish circumstances. And you get two Irishmen together, and you say, "Who are we going to betray?" And that's or who are we? We talk about the split in the organisation. But with us, it was this. What is he thinking about? Whatever they were thinking about, what is he thinking about?
It was always 3 against 1, or 2 against 2.
Yeah.
And the backstabbing went on.
The storytelling gift came from your father.
It did, but it was also communal. It was also an Irish tradition. Yeah, because there was nothing else. We didn't have television, radio, anything like that. And there was
we didn't have electricity.
We didn't have. There was nothing else. So when you have, we should go down on our knees and thank the English for imposing this language on us, because we've used it very well. Thank you.
Yeah. And also and misuse. You know, there's in the Blaguards, there's a wonderful politician named Dan Burke, and this is where we learned our amusement was you could either go to the courts,
right,
because there was great theatre there, or listen to our politicians. You think you had somebody, you had Dan Quayle, you should have heard the Mayor of Limerick, Dan Burke. I'll give you an example. Ladies and gentlemen and fellow patriots, welcome to this extinguished assemblage. Let me reiterate what I am about to say. I see before me faces that are not here, and I hope that those who are absent will take particular note of my words today. And then he goes on, and he talks about how we had a lavatory outside which was killing just about everybody in the lane. But he said, when I am elected, I'm going to make sure there's public lavatories the length and breadth of Limerick. And not alone should we build urinals for the men, we should construct arsenals for the women. Oh, no.
That from the mayor.
That from the mayor. No, you couldn't help but elect that man to extremely high office.
Watching you two used to perform this, didn't you?
Oh, we did.
For
years.
Yeah.
Do you think that everybody has this richness of experience, that if they just thought about it, that there is in everybody's childhood the kinds of experiences that if they probed and thought and remembered, they could write?
Didn't Proust do it? He had a very uneventful life, but he dug in and found out what he felt about this and what he felt about that. And he's got three volumes of remembrance of things past, and that's all subconscious. A lot of it is subconscious memories, a smell, the feeling of a diamond, something like that. And so every life is, in a sense, sacred, and every life is fascinating because it's a mystery. That's the main thing. But that's what you discover when you're writing, the mystery. And that's one of the things the church gave us too, the sense of mystery. You look at somebody in the subway and you say, I could sit with that person and write a book about them, because so much of it is not what happens, but what they're dreaming about and their frustration. That's the book. That's the life. That's literature. That's what Joyce discovered, and Proust and the rest of them. I don't think there's a life on this planet that isn't fascinating. I've said before, although I've had reason to regret it later, there's no such thing as a boring person.
Well, we could be boring. But I think that my own opinion is that we were fortunate in the sense that we had sort of a history of oppression. And I have one of my axioms is that to make good wine, you have to crush the grapes. Yes. And so we are the good wine of coming out of being crushed by institutions, by the church, which people will say, oh, now you're attacking the church again. But it was very oppressive. And then we had just short time before we were born, actually, the Brits were there crushing the Irish. And all the institutions in Ireland failed us. The schools failed us. The government failed us. To an extent, the charity institutions also failed us. So we had to make our own lives. And we were very fortunate in that when we wrote The Couple of Blaguards, which is now playing at the Triad in Manhattan.
Just getting ready to say that.
We are? Oh, good. Well, I thought I might get that in case we might forget. When we wrote it, we thought it was ordinary, in a sense. I thought I didn't think it was anything.
You mean like bland?
Well, not so bland as something. Well, it's just something that happens to anybody. This could happen. I mean, we were struggling one day outside next door to Mrs. Collins. We were about 8 or 9, and Billy Campbell and Frank and myself and a couple of others, and we fell in Mrs. Collins's door, and I ended up on the bottom. And they got up and fled. And Mrs. Collins came out, and she's looming over me with this big black shawl on her. And she's looking down at me like this black avenging angel, and she says, "If 'tis the way ye come crashing through the portals of my doorway again, 'tis the way I'll be smashing your countenances." Now, that from an illiterate woman, you might say. But look at the use of the language. And when she would throw out a basin of dirty water, what would she say, Frank?
Gardyloo.
Gardyloo.
These are words, there were certain Elizabethan words that stuck in Limerick language that nobody else uses anywhere around the world. But I discovered a lot about, I used to, like Malachy, we didn't want to talk about this at all when we came to the States, when we came back. When I was 19, Malachy was 20, I think. But we didn't want to talk, my mother didn't want to talk about it. As a matter of fact, in the first performance, my mother, this was 20 years ago, in a theatre over on the east side, the Billy Monk, which is gone now. She gets up during the middle of the first act and announces to the audience, "'Twasn't that way at all, it's all a pack of lies."
It's your mother.
Yes.
That's her mother.
So I said to her, "Well, come on up on the stage and tell us
Tell
your
the
side
truth."
of the story."
Yes.
She said, "I will not get on the stage with the likes of ye."
She
I
stood
have
up and said,
Yes,
"A pack
she
of
did.
lies."
A pack of lies. And she said, "I wouldn't come on the stage with the likes of ye. I have a good name to maintain." And then she sat down.
And by the way, they're not my sons at all.
Encouraging your sons to fame
Denial
and
is not a
fortune.
river in Egypt, as they say.
She didn't like this. She didn't like this show at all. She wouldn't have liked anything we've done lately because
She wouldn't have liked Angela's
She wouldn't
Ashes?
have liked Angela's Ashes. Oh no. And she complained about us all the time. She used to say, "Look at ye, 4 sons. Not one of ye married a nice Irish Catholic girl. There's nothing in this family but Jews and Protestants, Protestants and Jews. Every time I cross the floor, I'm tripping over little Jews and Protestants." And then the kids will come running to you, "Dad, what was Nana doing to me in the middle of the night, pouring water all over my head?" I think she baptized the goldfish. She baptized, and I know for a fact, Charlie, that she used to babysit her on the Upper West Side because she lived near Malachy. She'd babysit for Jewish families, and I know she baptized them. There's a lot of young Jewish men and women wandering around. They're Catholics. They don't know that.
They don't know they're Christian. They're wondering.
They never knew.
They're wondering why they're invoking Jesus at every opportunity.
And they're saved. They don't know that they're saved.
Well, we could go on, and we will another time. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Great
Charles.
to see you.
I can't.
Success.
I was wondering about this table.
Yes.
Is there any way we could see? Because I've been watching this show for years, and I often wondered what the legs were like, and I've never seen them.
Don't do that.
Can we have them a close up? I love this table.
They're like me.
itself.
They're old.
and I can't believe I'm here too either. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank
Charlie.
you, Malachy. Thank you. Thank you, Frank. Great to see you again. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.